Welcome back to Women of the League Producers Cut Podcast, a podcast taking you behind the scenes of Women of the League. All right, on episode 2, we learned about the different challenges that these families face in the NFL. Now, as we transition to episode number 3, we're going to learn about rest and recovery. Oh, and by the way, a little bonus for you. We're going to find out about Jared Goff's proposal to Christen Harper. Welcome into episode 3 of Women of the League Producers Cut Podcast, a show specifically designed to bring you, the audience, behind the scenes to what is going on here in Hermosa Beach. So another jam-packed day, guys, of content shot here just outside of LA. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber, joined alongside by Santino Sincato, Mike Jones, and Hannah Jones. Yes. We'll start with episode 3 here in a second, but before we even dive into that, once we started recording, or right before we started recording, Hannah was like, hey, they got glammed up and they were fired up today coming into this thing. So why don't you hit on that to start?
They were. We got to the hotel pretty early this morning.
What was the start time?
A little before 7. Or we got there a little before 7. The girls got there a little after 7. So, but yeah, they were so super pumped from kind of everything that happened yesterday, and even just the start with our dinner and everything the night before. So they came in just really excited, all on time. Like literally, these girls are freaking on point when it comes to being places on a certain time. They're great. Also, Kim brought her little baby down to hair and makeup today.
We missed that.
Little Jace. He's literally the cutest little thing.
I missed that.
He's so cute. So we got to meet him, but all the girls were just very, very excited. Like I said, I think they were, proud of themselves for, getting through those first little bit of butterflies and anxieties from the first day, and just ready to go for today.
That's at 7 a.m. and you're bringing energy. That's pretty good.
It really did. We got to bring the speaker earlier tomorrow, so we can put that up.
I was not expecting, so Kim picked the music, and I was not expecting her to throw in some Drake right away.
Yeah, I was like,
we were twerking.
Were we doing straight trophies?
Straight, pretty much.
Yeah. It was Drake radio.
It was aggressive.
All kinds
it was aggressive for the morning.
It wasn't Drake 2008, 2009 Drake.
No.
I think it was Laugh Now, Cry Later, like that.
Got it.
The girls were freaking awesome this morning. Brought a lot of energy.
Big time.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then they came over here about 10:30 Pacific, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I left 10:30. Got here 10:45.
They're we're super energetic walking in here. Came upstairs, obviously, the whole table gate situation. Like you said, day 1 went well. So episode 1, episode 2 have been released. So go back and watch that if you haven't done so. They were super pumped up about both of those. But episode 3 was focused on the offseason and what all that entails, and it was some interesting dialect between all of them, including Josie on set, just about, living life at home with your significant others suddenly back in the picture all the time versus being away all the time, taking vacations, and then one topic that I really want to get into, but let's start with you, Mike. What really stuck out to you that first episode recorded today?
Well, I think that, it's interesting when you think about, structuring your life in the way of in-season, out-of-season. They literally have distinctively 2 different lifestyles. And sometimes it's interesting to hear about how, during season it's completely this way, and out-of-season it's completely this way. And that is not just in the schedules, but in the household duties, in the way that they look at their finances. It's just a completely different makeup. So it's cool to see that. And then, there's a lot more intricacies than just that. They have OTAs and mini camps, so it's not like they just, end of the season, they're just off for the next 6 months. They're still
on pretty much all the time.
But it is off. So it's this weird in-between and hybrid that they kind of were able to walk us through. And I think, there's some relatability to that, especially in our side of the careers, but in, I think, everybody's careers, that there's parts of the time where it's super busy. I think of accountants. There's busy season for them. For us, fall on the media side, sports media side is very busy. Q4 and Q1 are super busy for y'all. So everybody has the in season, out of season. Hearing their perspective of it from a NFL perspective was cool.
Definitely. Even February or January, February was almost all of a sudden their off time. And I think it was Christen that was talking about she has a place in Detroit with Jared. Yep. But then once that time is over, the season is over, they're going back to LA. And it's well, wait a second. Like, I grew up in Minnesota. I want to go back to like LA or something.
Yeah,
really
where's mine?
February. Yeah. So that was super interesting. What did you take away?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I kind of had is we've all at the table have worked in football at some point, minus Hannah, but you've obviously
been around.
Pretty much.
Have been around it in season, and it was cool to hear from the female perspective on what that is like for them, because I think we get so indulged in what that lifestyle actually is, and though we're not participating like the athletes were, I know our schedules were, just as taxing, if not more hours, to make sure that everything is being facilitated and executed on the correct way. So I thought hearing their perspective on their side of it and just being able to like connect it back to maybe how Jen was experiencing those football seasons was pretty cool.
Yeah. Context: Jen is his wife.
Jen is my wife. Yeah. Yes, I love
context.
You, babe.
Shout out. One thing that I wrote down, I have on my note card right here. Whitney was talking about how she plays basketball one-on-one against Dalton in the off season.
Yeah,
that little story was pretty hilarious. Like, you can't box
they
me
had
out
like
or anything
specific
like that.
rules.
Yeah.
It's like basketball, but you can't do X, Y, Z because it's unfair. And I thought that was pretty sweet. Like, and that's the reason I think it's one thing to bring the audience closer into the minds of like when we were writing this, and obviously, you were much closer to the creative. I think we did want to find an episode where it was a little bit lighthearted, where we could let the wives talk about the fun parts. And sometimes out of this series, and you'll learn more as this continues to go, and there's some really hard-hitting episodes later on, we did want to make sure that there was an episode where you could see their personalities, where it wasn't such a hard conversation to have at the table. And I think it was good to have that moment.
Yeah, I also enjoyed how they kind of took the topics and some of the pre-scripting that we did and really just like ran with it. They didn't need a lot of coaching, and they just did their thing, and sometimes it got off the rails from what I think we originally thought that they were going to speak to, but it was all really, really good content, and obviously excited for everyone to see that. Yeah,
the episodes, for context, I think it would be helpful for the audience to understand, like, they're probably never seen a production like this, but there is, so we're I was saying in a house that's being, the main set, and about 40 feet below is a war room. Yeah. And both of y'all are in that war room, and Josie has an actual earpiece, and while conversation is taking place, I mean, they have a script by all means. Like, Josie and the teams already has an outline of where this is supposed to go, but you don't know what the question is going to get answered like. So at any point, she is hearing from Mitch and from Centino saying, hey, follow up with that, or like, let's come back to that. And I thought, for y'all, it's really interesting to see, like, as you mentioned, we have it outlined one way, but a lot of times, next thing you know, we're going left or we're going right. I mean, you're seeing 30 minutes of something. Both of the shooting today was over almost 2 hours.
Yeah, they went a long time today.
I mean, you're cutting down from 2 hours to half an hour.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see the dynamic between the war room team and the actual on-set trying to guide the host on what to talk about.
Definitely. I thought one of the interesting right-hand, left-hand turns, whichever way you want to go, there was some hesitation to talk about vacations. And, hey, we take this vacation in the off-season. And to me, just being a football fan, and you guys can speak to what you think, but it's like, oh, I'd find that super interesting. Obviously, you're very fortunate financially, and you're able to do that type of stuff, and you've earned it. But did you guys find it interesting that there was some hesitation as far as vacation? For example, Allie and Isaac went to Egypt, and it was so cool to finally hear about that.
So jealous of that.
But it took a little bit to get there.
Yeah, it did. Like, and you're being able to speak to an interesting perspective from the war room, who is trying to put comments and questions in the ear of the host to say, let's continue to try and get there. And it sounded like, today it was a little bit more having to pull. And I think some of the reason for that is just, these wives, if you really get to know them, and we've had the chance, and some of them are on your literally your talent roster. Some of them we've known for a while, and it's awesome to get to know them. But you're just getting to know them, and you've seen them from the screens, and you don't know them in person. And there's a lot of fear that they're going to come off ungrateful or privileged
or bragging about
going to Europe.
Yeah, and they're just very cautious of that. I feel like
so it takes a little bit extra. To get them comfortable to be able to share their stories, because I know the viewers that are really interested and love these wives, as you said, it's okay. They can enjoy their life, right? There are benefits to their situations. It's not all great, but there are some blessings. And it was cool to start to finally hear some of those blessings that they get to enjoy, because it's cool to live, through those stories.
Yeah. I would agree with all of what you just said. It's cool. I mean, Egypt's a spot that I don't think I'll get to go to anytime soon, for a multitude of reasons. But hearing that story, like, I want to see the pyramids, like, so bad. And now two people that are obviously on our talent team, and Allison and Isaac went and visited, and I can get some perspective and hopefully selling points for when I take it to Jen and say, hey, we need to go to Egypt. So
yeah, and it's cool to hear about how like Isaac transitioned from the football player, right, to like tourist.
Yeah.
So she's describing it. I'm like, I can just see this large man just like in the pyramids of Egypt. So
yeah,
that's cool.
And they talk about funny things like, they went to Egypt, but they saved the money on the flight and they sat economy, and as you have a 6'4" defensive end in the NFL,
and Allie herself is almost
5'11",
almost 6 foot. Yeah,
and they're crunched in on this flight for 12 hours. Like, that's funny. That's cool to hear about. It's relatable, and so that's the storylines that it was fun to see come out today.
I think Christen mentioned something even as small as like during the off season she gets to actually work out with Jared in different capacities. I also found that point to be really cool, because they don't need to work out together. Like, there's a lot of time during the day and in the off season to probably get different workouts in, but they're being super intentional with their relationship and making sure they're spending that quality time together and an activity that they both enjoy. So,
speaking of Christen, I thought arguably the highlight of episode 3 was her describing her proposal. This last off season with Jared, and Josie, I thought, did like an unbelievable job just like getting to it. And it was such a good story about the surprise and the family coming and her friends and all that.
Jared Goff is a romantic.
He is a romantic.
He had this thing
we got to find that out.
Yeah,
we got to find out a little bit of about Jared.
We got to take notes, boys. To
my credit, we were similar. We did it in California, Malibu on the cliff, and then we flew home, and her family was flying out, and you didn't know that they were going to meet us in Dallas, or did you?
No, it was planned.
Oh, okay. Jared had me on that one. Jared, you don't have me on a lot of things, but you got me there.
No, but we
probably
didn't know,
his
or
arm.
I didn't know we were getting engaged, but our families were going to fly out to Dallas to meet each other for the first time.
That's right. That's right. There was a different storyline for why it was happening, but not that I'm Jared. He means he's doing just fine for himself. But the proposal was really cool to hear about, and like the way that was planned, and like to hear the day of, and that she didn't know about it was happening. Yeah. The funny, quirky stories about how she was wearing black but wish she was wearing white. Like those are all things that are just
really fun to hear.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're going to transition from episode 3 to episode 4 here in a second, but in between that, Bailey, the advanced team of Santino, Bailey, and etc. Were you over there beforehand with the photos and whatnot? Anyways.
I wasn't.
She gave me a look like, no, I have no idea what you're talking
about. You don't know what you're talking about.
There was a bunch of photos going on over at the hotel that you took of the talent. What was that whole deal?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a production this big and something that's going to, gain as much press as it has by the time you're watching this episode. You want to have and be able to collect as much, content as possible. And I think through this entire experience with all the talent that we have, we also want to capture memories of, the set that they've been on, the relationships that they built. So today we did some photos at the resort, and it was very, very smooth. I think we captured exactly what we want. Tomorrow, at this point, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, what day that is.
I don't know, but
episode
tomorrow,
5, 6.
For production, we're going to head to the beach and get some more. And it's cool. It's fun for them. And these girls and they're naturals, so you don't even have to coach them up too much on how to strike a pose.
Yeah,
so
they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it makes our job behind the camera very, very easy.
Mike and I were standing there. It was like they were shooting some shots on the golf course, and Mike and I are standing there, and there's like golfers hitting golf balls their way, and we're like watching every shot.
Yeah. There were some moments I was like, but then I was also looking, and it's like, no, that guy has no chance to get this far.